We have come for you. Now is the time. All South Africans must unite. Welcome to the channel. Good evening, wherever you may find yourself around the world. Welcome, 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 welcome. We are angry. South Africans, white, black, colored, Indian. We are united in our disgust at the letter that Cyril Ramaphosa has produced today. This letter meant to mollify, meant to distract, meant to blame others for his failures, for his party's failures. Ladies and gentlemen, we warn the world, the lies shall not continue. I shall not continue with the lies. Well, apparently Cyril Ramaphosa will continue with the lies.
Well, folks, welcome to Chris Wide Africa. Good evening or good afternoon, wherever it may be for you around the world, wherever you find yourself around the world. Whoa, my face is all red from that mask. Ooh, that's right, the Guy Fawkes mask, V for Vendetta. How you like, guys? Yeah, I like that one. Welcome to Chris Wide Africa. My apologies for the tardy start for today's Stray Voltage stream, but I was busy digesting all the things that have happened just in the last several hours when I was resting. Folks, I expected to spend today talking about Columbus Day, which is a federal holiday here in the United States, as well as the Supreme Court nomination confirmation process for Judge Amy Coney Barrett. But I awoke to this bizarre letter from Cyril Ramaphosa, this one right here, 3 pages of utter nonsense in which he blames farmers, the farming community, and he tries to play the role of uniter, the great uniter, which he's not. That's a fraudulent narrative. Anyway, folks, thanks for tuning in. Let me get to the chat with everybody. Yeah, my beard around the mask, yeah. Say hello to everybody, and then we'll get into the news. My apologies, I have a bit of a headache here. And I will have a stream later this evening, the Night Owls edition, and we'll be talking about Columbus Day and events taking place here in the United States, including the shooting in Denver, as well as Supreme Court Justice nomination and the confirmation hearings for Judge Amy Coney Barrett. That'll be with Joe Stong from out in Wyoming, the gentleman who was with me a few weeks ago from Wyoming Catholic College that sponsored the trip for Special Operations Forces veterans out in Wyoming. So, folks, thanks for tuning in. Let's go ahead and get to the chat. Erica was here early. I'm glad that people caught on to the stream and realized that we got it set for later, so thank you for that. Stronger Together's here. Nice song. Whoever's interested, New Radicals, you get what you give. Okay. Great lyrics. They are indeed. Hendo and Brian is here. Hi there. How are you all? Well, I'm doing well. Bit of a headache, though. Olaf is back. Good to see you here. And let's see who else we got here. Corlia. Welcome to Corlia. And Brian already said that. Robin is back. Hey, Robin. I'm worried about our farmers. I'm worried about those infiltrating ranks and stirring. Yeah, I think, Olaf, that's a good point. You will find agitators and infiltrators who are not part of the farming community who will likely be sent to infiltrate the ranks. Now, I'm talking about people who look like the farmers, so white South Africans, Afrikaans-speaking South Africans, and English-speaking South Africans who will infiltrate these groups and try to rouse people up and start trouble on their own. So you need to be aware of that, folks. You need to be aware of agitators and infiltrators amongst your group if you're going to be in Senegal. So be aware of that. Andre Jacobs is here. Shock Dweller, good to see you again. Gert Janssen van Rensburg, Malcolm Stark, Andre Jacobs. We should start playing the four-dimensional chess like the EFF is doing, accusing them of supporting farm murders as they are supporting the murderers. Indeed, that's an interesting approach. Futsarko is here. Good to see you. Sharon Westfall's back. Mandy Hunsdale. Malema has laid a charge today against one of the Senegal speakers last week, Anthony David Hall. I just find it hilarious how people can just lay charges in South Africa. I've never made a comment about that, but it's hilarious. He was not. If you're not personally affected by something, how can you lay a charge against someone? I find that interesting that South Africans can do that, whether it's a political party like the DA or someone else. It's fascinating. Hendo's got the link up there for Latinos and Chris's favorite YouTube. Yeah, those guys were with Eric Trump or Don Trump Jr., one of the two. We saw them now. They made the big time, the group that sings that song, the Trump song. Let's see what else we go here. Karen is back. Good to see you, Karen. Llewellyn Torres here. Lars Salas, I've already mentioned. White Pope 5 is here. Welcome, Llewellyn. Stevie, Shack Dweller. Citizen Guardian is here. Hey, Citizen Guardian, good to see you. We've been supposed to chat, but we haven't been able to pull that off. Carl is back once again. Martin van Dijk, welcome to you. Batman Fundem Eva, welcome as well. And who else? Corleia did an at Chris. I'm not sure what that was. Carl says, fake news. I can see your white ears, white man. That's a good one, Carl. That's a good one. Robin the Bear is going to give him away. Oh, the beard. And then Recreation says, you sounded like the Hawk. Oh, please. Did I really? Cut the beard around the mask. Not going to happen. I don't know if we're going to remember the 5th of November this year. Okay, what's that? Whoops. Yep, somebody just used foul language. Please, let's not use the foul language. Good job by the moderator removing that comment. Okay. Okay, Andre von Royen says, hello from Britannia Bay, West Coast to Western Cape. Well, thank you. Don't let Cyril get in your head like that. Cyril is in my head. Cyril Ramaphosa. Ooh. We'll do a seance, folks. We'll do a seance and try to bring back our ancestor to help us resolve the problem. Joe Niemann, there's a name I haven't seen before. Welcome, Joe. Welcome. Andres Beanard is back once again. Almo. Hello, Almo. Your message got deleted. Please use proper language. Jim G is here. Peter Dutoy is back again. And who else? Why everybody saying hello to everybody here? Oh, Almo got a timeout. I guess he went too far. And then White Pope says, we are fast approaching the stage, the ultimate version of the stage where the government is free to do anything it pleases while the citizens may. You're already there. The government's already. Kalpana Sony's back. Welcome you. The government's already there in South Africa, folks. They're doing what they want to do. Winnie Fundamov is here. Croy Thompson returned to Houston after checking out Colorado, New Mexico. Oh, cool. Croy, I take it you got up in the mountains in Colorado, obviously, and maybe even New Mexico. Beautiful places. Ranger Jakes is back. Hey, long time no see. While the citizens may act only by permission in which is a state. Yeah. No, you're right. All right. Folks, let me go ahead and get right to this letter, okay? There's a super chat from Drian says, Lief ek is boit. Okay? Well, thank you for that, Drian, for that super chat. I appreciate that. We got started with a super chat. Wasn't expecting super chat this early in the stream. Well, folks, let's go ahead and get right into Ramaphosa's letter. I'm going to read from it and offer commentary as I go along. Is that okay with you guys? All right, so that's the plan here. Now, make no mistakes. This is not a genuine letter. It's not meant to do anything other than to calm people down because they're scared. They being the ruling leaders of the African National Congress. They're scared because their feckless governance, their uncaring behavior has caused a situation which is quickly becoming a tinderbox. And the fact that for 26 years, rural farmers were murdered. They were tortured, mutilated, murdered, raped, lives destroyed. For 26 years, the government has sat by and done nothing. Only now, when a single police vehicle is tipped over on its side under questionable circumstances, only then do we see this government taking action. The ANC only takes actions. It only knows how to do things. Folks, my video's out again. I can see that my voice is not synced, so I'm going to close that again. And hang on. I'm going to come back with a camera, so don't run off. The camera's still there. I'll be right back. I don't know why this crappy software that Logitech updated with is really bad. Golden Sheep is back. Good to see Golden Sheep. Edinet is here as well. Edinet, I had a nice conversation the other day. Bit of a long one, but a nice conversation. Thank you for that conversation, Edinet. Right. Come on, camera. Come back. Come back. Waiting for the camera. Waiting for the camera. Here we go. Ooh, there we go. Logitech. All right, Logitech. I don't know why the software is doing that, folks. They updated. I didn't ask for it. And before they updated, my camera never had these problems. Anyway, so folks, back to the letter. So this letter is meant to mollify people and to give the impression that the South African leadership wants to calm the public down before events on the 16th of October. Make no mistake, ladies and gentlemen, nobody here is asking for anything to happen on the 16th of October. We're asking for calm, rational presence. If people go to Senegal or wherever the venue is at, it's supposed to be in Senegal, but if they're there on the 16th, we ask that you are calm, you're rational, you're well-behaved. Let's keep the Union flags out of the mix. Let's not seek to intimidate anybody on any side of this discussion. Let's be there for peaceful presence to show in large numbers that people show revulsion at the neglect and the failure of the ANC in its policing and its public safety role for South Africa. It has failed. If this were a going concern, the auditors would say close the business rescue. The ANC needs to enter business rescue, folks, because they're bankrupt. And not just financially, they're bankrupt morally, they're bankrupt politically, they're bankrupt with ideas. I read to you now, ladies and gentlemen, in my never nicotine-stained hand, nicotine-stained fingers, this letter from President Cyril Ramaphosa. Here we go. Are we ready? Dear fellow South African, Ooh, this is addressed to you individually, South Africa. Not to South Africans in general, but to you individually. Dear fellow South African, just over a week ago, Brendan Horner, a young farm manager in the Free State, was murdered in an appalling act of cruelty. That's correct. It took you a week to recognize this. Your government. Didn't have to be the president to recognize this, but your government took a week. His killing should anger and upset every one of us. Indeed, it should. No matter who we are, no matter what community we live in, no matter our race, creed, or language, we should be as deeply affected by the death of Brendan Horner as we are by the many other South Africans who die violent deaths each year. So far, so good. Good start. Nice measured tone. Just as we mourn the loss of his life, we also mourn the deaths of Mohamed Kloti, Tawa Esop, and Andre Bennett, 3 young men who were shot in a car in Delft in the Western Cape in the same week. Ladies and gentlemen, already just the third paragraph of this sentence, really, it's not really a paragraph, it's all one paragraph, but he's spacing it out so that he can read it. Already, at the beginning of the letter, we see moral equivalency. Moral equivalency here, folks. All right, no one's questioning the tragic death of those people, nor is anybody questioning the death of the gentleman who was murdered yesterday, trying to protect a woman from being raped in Soweto. That's right, folks, and you saw my video on this. Themba Nkumbi was murdered by thugs in Soweto yesterday because he protected his friend so she could escape and not be gang raped and murdered under gender-based violence that takes place on a rampant basis in South Africa today. Themba Nkumbi. But Themba Nkumbi is not the topic of why Cyril Ramaphosa issued this letter. Yet he puts moral equivalence in here. Basically what he's saying is the stupidity that we hear all the time from the social justice warriors and the work ones saying, well, you know, you're only upset about farmers because they're white. You don't care about the death of black South Africans. No. And bringing that in here is utter nonsense. This moral equivalency diminishes the issue and distracts from the issue at hand. The issue at hand, Cyril Ramaphosa, is plasmoord, farm murders. That is the topic at hand. And the majority of those farm murders are violent, terroristic mutilations and torturing before death. Not to mention rapes of men and women. That is the topic at hand. Not 3 kids being shot in a car in the Western Cape last week. Notice he brings up a crime in the Western Cape, which is controlled by the Democratic Alliance. Not things taking place in the rest of South Africa where the ANC has control, total control. As we continue, our thoughts are with the families at this time of grief. It is such moments that we are called on to reach out to them as each other as South Africans to show compassion, empathy, and solidarity. Well, if I believe you really did, then I think we would have heard that you'd already called and spoken to any of these 4 families, whether it's Brendan Horner's family or the family of Bennett, Esop, and Klute. But I seriously doubt that you or anyone in your government has offered their condolences. So stop with your nonsense. These crimes are a stark reminder of the levels of violence in our country. Indeed, they are, Cyril Ramaphosa. You've been president for 2.5 years. You need to do something with the SAPs, something I've been arguing for years. It's called the 3R. Very simple. R cubed. Retrain, resource, and redeploy. You need to retrain the South African Police Service so that it's an effective community policing service, one that is capable of doing proper investigations with fully stocked forensic capability. That's what you need to do. Retrain them. They need to resource them. Seeing police ride around in broken down vehicles or police not having the response vehicles they need, when they need them, where they need them, is pathetic. Not to mention the salaries of police, so we have so many corrupt police as a consequence. Resource and redeploy. Redeploy police to rural South Africa. You've abandoned rural South Africa and kept your police largely in the urban centers. SAPs are almost non-existent in rural areas. Now, it's a big country, so that's a big challenge. But perhaps 175,000 people assigned to SAPs is not enough. Because, ladies and gentlemen, excuse me, when you break down 187,000, 175,000, whatever's on the payroll, you take out all of the administration, you take out the mechanics who keep the vehicles running, you take out all of the people who are not on the street, on the beat, policing. That gets you down to probably maybe 120, 130,000 police for a country of that size. 60 million people, 130,000 police officers. You take out supervisors, you're down to 120,000. 120,000, any force, whether it's military or police, law enforcement, that's responsible for security rotates forces. You usually have 3 shifts, and you rotate 3 shifts through. So at best case, you might have 40,000 police officers on the street right now in South Africa somewhere. That's best case. 40,000 to police 60 million people. Are you insane? Are you absolutely insane? New York has 40,000 police officers alone. The city of New York, 16 million people, has 40,000 police officers. Now, it's a complete disaster because Mayor de Blasio, but it has 40,000 police officers all on its own. It's a country of its own, essentially. South Africa, 40,000 available at a given time in a country demonstrably larger than the city of New York. All right, back to this. While crime affects everyone, moral equivalency again, the majority of victims of violent crime are black and poor. That's true. And why haven't you spoke out about it in 26 years? Where are SAPs? Where is Becket Sile? Sorry, I got stuck in the groove there on the repeat. Where is the Minister of Police? Where is he at? Is he in his gangster's paradise? Is that where Becket Sile's at? Yes. All right. Continuing on. It is young black men and women who are disproportionately greater at risk of being murdered. That's true, except it's not. That's a lie. It is not black men and women who are disproportionately at risk of being murdered when you break down groups. If you're breaking down groups by that, then you need to break down farmers as farmers alone, commercial farmers. And they are disproportionately targeted and murdered in South Africa at an astronomical rate, making them among most likely to be murdered on this planet, not just in South Africa, on this planet. So that's a lie. That is a lie. You are breaking down the situation based on skin color and saying that black men and women are more likely to be killed. That's a lie. White commercial farmers are the group most at risk, disproportionately at risk. So stop lying. Right there in his letter, that's a lie. You can disprove that with the SAP's own statistics. Now, here's the next thing. All right, we have a huge task to bring an end to murder, assault, robbery, rape, and violence against women and children wherever it happens and whoever it affects. Well, duh! Where have you been, Cyril? You were the deputy president under Jacob Zuma. What did you do? Oversaw the Maracana situation? I'm impressed. You've been president for 2.5 years. What have you done? And don't give me this excuse, oh, the Rona. No. Instead of resourcing the police and retraining the police, you've continued to underfund the police and the South African Defense Force, for that matter. You've underfunded both. You have allowed a broken, negligent, underfunded, under-resourced, and piss-poor justice system to allow criminals to go unpunished. Yes, I know you put some people in jail, but usually poor people like 52-year-old Andre Pinar, who your government is now charged with ludicrous terrorism charges. The only possible thing that you have against him based on his actions is his call for violence. That's it. That's the only potential crime you have. Those others must be dismissed out of court. Terrorism. Are you serious? Are you serious? And what about Julius Malema? What about his calling for violence, singing at rallies to murder white South Africans, white farmers? We see the product of your feckless governance right here on a daily basis. Julius Malema for a decade goes out and chants, kill the boy, shoot, shoot, shoot to kill, shoot to kill. I understand English. I don't have to speak his language to understand what he's saying. Shoot to kill. How in the world is that man not in prison? This is the consequence. When you see radical, rabid, nonsensical idiots like Julius Malema running around, screaming this stuff, shouting it, incentivizing people to go out. Now we see him posting pictures of AK-47s and telling all party members, all fighters, get out, all fighters attack, rousing people up to violence. No one's doing that in the farming community. But the Economic Freedom Fighters, a group with members in parliament, a political party, gets away with this. It's not free speech. It's hate speech. It's violence. Let's continue on with Julius Malema, recently inciting violence and terrorism against Clicks, a business, a majority black-owned business. And he incites violence, tells his members to go out and attack them. And they petrobomb at Clicks. 44 Clicks locations attacked across South Africa. How is that man not charged with inciting violence and insurrection? Shall I continue? The list is endless. But let's get back to the letter, folks. Let's get back to the letter. All right. So, we have a huge task. Indeed, you do. We have a huge task to bring an end to murder. So I already did. Okay. It requires that all peace-loving South Africans stand together, not only to condemn these criminal acts, but also to work together to end them. Ah, I see. So the failure of the police, the failure of the criminal justice system in South Africa is the responsibility of all South Africans. Well, if only that were the case, folks, on a day in which the government is gazetting now the expropriation without compensation law and lying about that. That's a whole other topic. I'll make a separate video. We'll have a conversation about that. Today was supposed to be the day that I went on with Joe Emilio to talk about this, but a scheduling conflict on my part, I wasn't sure if I was available, but talking about land and poverty. So in the midst of this nonsense, the EWC bill has been put on the table. And notice that they're not talking about the clause in the Constitution. There's a clause in the Constitution, Section 25, which gives the government the ability to take property without compensation. but it must have a legitimate basis. It already exists. I mean, with compensation, with compensation, not without compensation. There is an expropriation with compensation clause in there. But the government has stolen so much, and they've allowed the situation to fester so long, and they've not addressed it in adequate fashion, that what they're doing now is distracting people about land in South Africa. But it's not just land, folks. If you think it's just land, I read the news article saying it will only be in certain specific circumstances. That's nonsense. This law will be used once the Constitution amendment. By the way, this law they're talking about, the 1975 law, which doesn't even bear on the issue. The 1975 expropriation law that exists under the apartheid government of the National Party is not in question here. There was a constitution which was ratified in the late 1990s by a majority rule in the government of South Africa. That is the current constitution. That is the law of the land. Expropriation with compensation is the requirement. They want to remove that so they can steal because they're running out of things to steal. That's the bottom line. Don't let them distract from you on a day that Ramaphosa comes out with his letter. But let me continue the letter, folks. Here we go. Right. It requires that we hold fast to the principles contained in our Constitution, that we uphold the rule of law, and that we strengthen our justice system to ensure that perpetrators are brought to book. Well, I agree with you, Cyril Ramaphosa. You got something correct. Strengthen our justice system. When the fact that less than 10% of all people commit violent crimes in South Africa are even arrested, and of those percentage of those arrested, so few are actually ever even tried, and even fewer even put in prison, and they get away with the violent crimes, and they do it again and again and again. There is no break to this immoral behavior because the society's law enforcement and justice system does not prosecute people properly. Oh, we can lock up Oscar Pistorius, yeah, because that's a lot of attention, and that's fine. The guy murdered his girlfriend. He deserved to go to jail. We can charge Andre Pinar with terrorism, but we can sit back and watch people against gangsterism and drugs blow up the planet Hollywood, attack people, assassinate people in Cape Town for years before the ANC takes action. But God forbid that a small group of lunatics form something called the Boeremag. Then the government takes every resource at its disposal, infiltrates a small group of less than 24 people, and has more intelligence agents in the Boeremag than are actually Boeremag actors. They disband it and they imprison these people. Well done, ANC. That you take seriously. A small group of white South Africans. One police vehicle tipped over. You call terrorism. Yet people can tear up the streets with pickaxes, tear up the highways, and disrupt traffic. We saw today in Durban yet again, public service delivery failure protest. People destroying public property, attacking the offices of the councillor. Hey, by the way, state property, that's state property. Where are you at for that? This is utter nonsense. People are not equal under the Constitution, Cyril Ramaphosa. You intentionally racialize everything in society. You attack minorities, whether they're white, colored, or Indian. You go after them all the time. You and your government and the EFF. You do it all the time. That's the truth. People aren't equal under your Constitution. You have race-based legislation that is worse than apartheid, that discriminates against people based on their skin color. Do you need proof of it? Broad-based black economic empowerment. You must have 51% ownership by a majority black company. What is that nonsense? How does that empower people? How does that raise people up? Instead of creating race-based laws in the country of South Africa, you need to fix education. You have dumbed down education. Are you not embarrassed, Cyril Ramaphosa in the African National Congress, that you only need a 30% grade to pass the matric to go to university? 30%? No wonder we have morons in college and university in South Africa going, hey, science must fall. Science is racist. What kind of idiocy is this? What is your solution then? Muti? You're going to take a little satchel out of herbs and spices from the rooibos? You're going to put it out there and show us? Education, opportunity, and not discrimination. Discrimination is the order of the day. That's the ANC. That's what they're all about. This party shames itself. It shames the liberation struggle. The struggle was not about black supremacy. And I don't want to hear about the legacy and fixing things. You had 26 years to fix things. If you followed my advice in 1994, South Africa would be thriving today. That's right. A genuine national sovereign wealth fund. Instead of giving equity to the likes of Cyril Ramaphosa, took his sex quality and a handful of other connected ANC elites. You take that equity, you put it into a national sovereign wealth fund managed by an external actor, just like Kuwait does, just like Norway does. And that money can be given to people based on their need, not based on their skin color. If you're poor and destitute, whether you're white or black, it doesn't matter. You would get the payouts from dividends and capital gains from that national sovereign wealth fund. That is one start. Instead of pilfering and taking pieces of Old Mutual and Anglo-American and all these other corporations and handing them to the elites and creating a nouveau riche of black elites, disconnected from how that wealth was made. No idea how the money's made. The hard work, the labor, the innovation, the ideas that come into play. Stealing from everybody. National Sovereign Wealth Fund, 1994. You fix the police. You resource them properly. You train the police to proper community policing so that they're integrated in the communities. And you do not disband the commando system. You fix the problems with the commando system. And you use that reserve-based system to ensure that South Africans have access to a response from the government, not forced to buy that response out of their own pocket. And you do not racialize politics. Quotas. Transformation. You've destroyed the word transformation. Transformation is destroyed in South Africa. It's utter nonsense. Utter nonsense. Let me catch up on the chat here and I'll get back to the letter because people keep saying, Chris, did I miss something? What's that? That is Alistair gave a super chat. Well, thank you so much for that, Alistair. Do not care of salary, only for themselves. You are correct, Johan. Peter, I suspect they'll go private pensions. That's what they're going to go after. That's what they want. Alamo says, I don't know if you're raging or really passionate about this topic. Both. He rants but backs up with hard data, facts, and evidence. Thank you, Hendo. Albertine says, today's action Durban must be classified as worse than terrorism. Well, they should certainly care. Okay, the events, Albertine, in Durban, I haven't seen all the coverage. I've seen a little bit of footage from it. Those events must be characterized as an attack on state property. If they're so concerned about someone tipping over a vehicle in Senegal, which is a legitimate concern because it's a criminal act, and calling it terrorism, then they need to be concerned about ripping up highways with pickaxes and burning counselors' offices. Those are crimes against the state. But not a word from the ANC, not a reaction, nothing at all. All right, so let me get back to this. All right, what else we got here? There's a thumbs up from Alistair, a super chat. Thank you for that. What will Biden's Africa policy be? Well, Brett, that'll be pretty easy. Let's see. Whoops, I need my mask back. So I can't do this with a straight face. So, all right.
Hi, folks. Hang on. Sorry, I was sniffing some hair right there. Okay, so folks, I'm Joe Biden, and my Africa policy is the following. I was at Soweto, next to Robben Island, when I met Nelson Mandela. And it's the people of South Africa we're united with. It's the people, not that government. And so now, as the government discriminates against all its minorities in South Africa, we continue to be with this government to allow it to discriminate. And I don't recognize hypocrisy of my policy whatsoever. I'm Joe Biden, and I endorse this message.
Joe Biden's Africa policy will be a joke. It will be simply nothing new. There'll be no policy. It'll be a continuation of existing policies, and he'll take credit for it. Much like African elites try to give Barack Obama credit for PEPFAR and for the Millennium Challenge account. I just laughed when I saw that. Most Africans know better than that, but elites try to claim that Barack Obama came up with those things. He didn't. It was his predecessor. All right. Ginaldo Rose is back. Who are more dangerous, educator or uneducated? Well, it doesn't matter. You can be an idiot. You can be a genius. You can be just as dangerous. Keynote. I wonder why the DA are quick to open a case against EF for vandalism, but they don't do the same. Probably because the DA doesn't recognize what happened in Senegal's violent farmers. That's a myth. Keynote. Name the violent farmers. By the way, do you have a name? There's one person arrested. So one person responsible for what happened. That's it. So the government took action. They arrested Andre Pinar. So what case do they need to open? Keynote, which you're implying is that the thousands of people present, which included whites and blacks, let's get your story straight, were responsible for violence, violent farmers. They weren't violent farmers. That's bull. I have video evidence to show you what happened there. The presence of people was not even at the court. It was up the road, 600 meters away. People had prayers, they had speeches, and they were peaceful. And they had signs. They didn't torch. There were no necklacings. There were no burning tires in the roads. No one was throwing rocks at the Nyalas. The Nyalas are the ones that drove irresponsibly. The violence was perpetrated by the police. One vehicle was tipped over. And you don't know the circumstances of that, Keynote. And neither do I, because we have conflicting information. We have one side and dozens of eyewitnesses saying that that vehicle was charging into a crowd of pedestrians. And people charged the vehicle and flipped it over so it couldn't kill people. That's one side. The police have not offered an explanation as to how that vehicle got tipped over or why it was tipped over. Simply fraudulent news reports that it was lit on fire. Dozens of eyewitnesses said the vehicle caught on fire spontaneously as a consequence of being tipped over on its side. Seems a lot more plausible. So, Keynote, I think that's why the DA didn't file a case. If you're going to hear, if it's a legitimate question, that's fine, but I have a sense that I smell a troll here. Anyway, so, but you're welcome to hang around, Keynote. All right, what else we got here? Geez, that's scary. Biden, the evil, responsible for a lot of damage here in the 80s. Yep. We just had a super chat from somebody. I can't even see who that is. Let me catch up here. So, Ann says double standards manipulate by defection of attention. Black farmers getting off their farms. Yeah, Steve, what about that? I've been talking about this for ages. It's not just black farmers being kicked off. It's the failure of the government to provide extension services, financing, support, and anything to black farmers. Black farmers have been put on commercial farmland, have been left and abandoned almost entirely on their own by the government. The only time they get support, by and large, is from other farmers, white commercial farmers who help out their neighbors. That is a true story. Andre Pinar's first political prisoner of new liberation. That might be a true statement. Andre Pinar, bipolar. Okay. Brett gave that. Some farmers overreacted in Senegal, but the police were worse. They threw flashbangs at peaceful protesters minding their own business. That's correct. They drove vehicles at a reckless speed down the road to charge into a scene in which they plowed through a public crowd and charged into the courthouse and broke down the wall. People pushed the vehicle back. The vehicle was tipped to disarm it. Yeah, that's what I've said. Okay. My chat's not keeping up here, folks. Sorry. I'm on fire tonight. All right. Well, land reform has failed because the ANC hasn't taken it seriously. All that needs to happen with land reform is in place, ladies and gentlemen. Every single thing is in place. Everything. And land reform should be done on the basis agreed to at CODESA, the Convention for Democratic South Africa, in which all parties, the ANC, the Pan-African Congress, the Bantustans, the National Party, all agreed that not a single land claim would be valid before 1910. Why? There was no country of South Africa before 1910. It didn't exist. It was a collection of colonies, independent republics, which had been subdued by the British, so they were now colonies, and African kingdoms. Things like the Western Cape, the Zulu land, things like the Xhosa Nation, things like the Free State, the Orange Free State, and the Transvaal, all incorporated into the new South Africa that existed for the first time in 1910 as a result of the Union South Africa Act. The first census took place in 1911, and 21% roughly of the population were white European South Africans. Today, they're down to about 7 or 8%. But that doesn't mean they haven't grown in number. Despite mass emigration out of the country over the past 26 years by whites, coloreds, and black South Africans, the number of white South Africans has actually grown from a little over 1 million in 1911 to 4.8 million today, nearly 5 times as large. But the number of black South Africans has increased from 4 million to 43 million, plus 5 million illegal immigrants who are hanging out in South Africa. So yeah, that's the reality there. But the land issue, it's there. The law is there. There's no need to take land without compensation. There's no need to take land. The government has been sitting on thousands of hectares of land that it have not issued to anybody. They've purchased land and not done anything with it. They've underfunded the budget. I've covered this in previous streams. I've covered this in my article on land and poverty. The ANC is ridiculous. They have absolutely screwed the land issue, and they've lied about it day after day after day after day after day. Every time you turn around, the ANC is lying about land. First off, the land issue was open, and the agreement was there was 5 years, from 1995 to 1999, you could submit a land claim. And your land claim didn't have to be just you were taken advantage of. If your parents or your grandparents or great-grandparents, anyone who had land taken them from 1910 until 1994, you could claim compensation or restitution for the land. That's how the program ran. 75,000 claims were filed, folks. 75,000 claims over 5 years. Do you know how many of those claims are resolved? Over 73,000, nearly 74,000. Almost all of them. Now, were they fair? That's a legitimate point of dispute. The government of South Africa, by and large, paid people compensation, financial compensation, rather than change ownership of land. This is particularly important in places like District 6 in Cape Town, where you're not going to uproot billion-dollar residences and this wealthy, leafy suburb to turn over to a small group of people. You're destroying a big part of the economy. That's simply not practical. So that is lost And that's the case. So what happened there is they paid financial compensation for the people who were dislocated from District 6. By the way, District 6 was multiracial. It's also always said that it was a colored district. Yes, it was largely colored, but it was also full of black Africans, and it was also full of whites. It was full of everybody, but it was largely colored. So District 6 was destroyed, and it was bulldozed over, and it became a leafy suburb. So those people were paid financial compensation. But almost all the land claims were filed. But then the government didn't do anything. It did nothing to resolve the remaining cases, which were about claims by ethnic groups, tribes, and or individuals about land taken from them. They did very little. They didn't move. They had the mechanisms in place. They had the money, but they didn't use it. They were too busy pilfering from it or buying Corvettes and Gripen fighters and Type 209 diesel submarines. What the hell does that have to do with what's going on in South Africa? Nothing. Why? So they could pilfer from the contracts. There's no threat to South Africa. It doesn't have, none of those things I just mentioned have anything to do with peacekeeping, which is the only thing that the South African National Defense Force has been doing for 26 years. Peacekeeping and border security. That's what they've been doing. They don't need those airships and those guns, gunboats and those submarines for that. It's nonsense. Travelgate, Oilgate, and Conla. Shall I go on? Sorry, folks, I'm choked here. Do I need to go on with the level of corruption in the ANC for the last 26 years? No. As they pilfer money away. There is adequate money. But when the government takes land that they buy now because they're forced to buy it, or they buy it from a willing seller, they issue it to black commercial farmers with no training, no experience. They offer no extension services. They offer no loans for capital outlays. Farming isn't you just walk in the ground, Mike Bloomberg, and stick a seed in the ground and wait for it to rain and then go pull the maize off it. It's a lot more involved than that. It involves capital outlays. You have to buy equipment. You have to buy seeds. You have to buy fertilizer. You have to irrigate properly. You have to buy irrigation equipment. You have to buy pest control. There is so much going on. There's huge capital outlays in farming, and the government has failed to provide the resources to South African black farmers. Yeah, so they're largely on their own, except in those rare cases where white commercial farmers have aided their competition. Very kind of them to do it, but it's happened in many, many cases. And those farmers have also been the target. This is not about farming. This is about political intimidation. And I shall continue with this letter now, rather than tell my story about land. So, right, it requires we hold fast the principles contained in our Constitution, that we uphold the rule of law, and we strengthen our justice system. Only thing I agree with here is strengthen justice system, which is a joke. But uphold the Constitution. Now, Constitution says that all South Africans are equal. Only they're not under your government. They're not. If you're white, you have to score a higher score. And then you still get denied opportunities because companies are terrified of being decertified as a BEE enterprise if they hire white South Africans. As a consequence, you have hundreds of thousands of qualified white South Africans who can't work because they're denied by racial injustice in South Africa. Now, before any of you moral equivalency clowns come on here and you little trolls come on and go, well, where were you when apartheid was in place? I was a young man and I was in uniform. So what I could do was limited. But when I had the opportunity, I did speak out against apartheid, including protesting at a parade in Amsterdam in 1985. That's right. Yes. So let's not try to bring your moral equivalency in here. People found the system apartheid and its rules to be equally morally bankrupt. The violent protest took place in Senegal. Violent protest. No, there was a violent incident. Two, actually. The police firing a firearm as people streamed into the courthouse and the vehicle being tipped over. That's it. That's it. Thousands of people gathered, and that's all you have to lay it on, and then you lie about it. You're as bad as ENCA. The brutal killing of a young white farmer, allegedly by black men. Why is that in the sentence? The brutal killing of a white farmer. That's enough. Allegedly by black men means to give the impression that maybe these guys didn't do it. Well, the reality is they're innocent until proven guilty. So maybe they didn't, but that's not germane to the conversation. This is an effort at moral equivalency or to racialize the conversation. To racialize. Allegedly. If you're going to say it was by black men, that'd be different. But allegedly. Followed by the spectacle of white farmers storming a police station. No, a crowd of people, including farmers, pushed into the courthouse when the police would not allow entry to a public building. Should they have done this? No, they should not have done it. Spectacle? Not a spectacle. The spectacle was the SAPS officer firing and discharging a weapon inside an enclosed space. That's the spectacle. The Yalas rushing down the road, endangering public safety, whipping into front of the courthouse, charging the vehicle into the building and knocking the wall down. That's a spectacle. That's a spectacle. If we are to succeed in tackling violent crime, particularly in rural communities, we must confront this trauma and challenge the racial attitudes that prevented a united response. The racial attitudes that prevented a united response. Do you mean like yourself saying on national television, in your response to gender-based violence, which was decades overdue and was far short of the mark and was also bull. It was just simply pandering to the public. Your response recently, Cyril Ramaphosa, let me paraphrase what you had to say. You see that, let me put the mask on, okay? Put the mask back on. I'll be Cyril here. Okay, so Cyril, so what you have to understand is that white people by nature are racist. And that is the reason why we have gender-based violence. White people by nature are racist. Do you not see the irony of that racist statement that you made, Cyril Ramaphosa? Do you not see the irony of lumping 4.8 million people into one group of people? And also the dishonesty, the intellectual dishonesty, the cognitive dissonance. That's insane. That's insane. That's insane. So the attitudes that prevent a united response, well, the attitudes come from you and from Julius Malema and Floyd Shivumbu. That's where the attitudes come from. Not from commercial farmers. You don't see commercial farmers running on, ooh, only white people. Everyone else must go. Futsek, this is only our land. Piss off. No. No, it is black South Africans, by and large, not exclusively, but by and large, who've racialized this situation. Does that mean that 50 plus million black South Africans, or not 43 million black South Africans are responsible? No, a small number of people are responsible. And their political leaders creating and stoking racial hatred. The things that prevent united response. You are the thing that prevents united response, Cyril Ramaphosa. You. Look in the mirror, Rocco. Look in the mirror. Look at your party. You stoke racial hatred because you failed in so many ways. Your economy is a disaster. South Africa is the third world. We cannot pretend that it's a developed country any longer with a first world economy next to a third world economy. You have lost 3 million jobs because your unwarranted lockdowns, banning tobacco products, banning open-toed shoes. We all know, of course, that COVID-19 is the most likely vector for it is someone's exposed big toe. You know, if they have exposed toes, that's how you get COVID-19 because it comes out of the toenail. What is that stupidity? Your useless minister of no trade, Ibrahim Patel, banning e-commerce on a lockdown. The only part of the economy that can actually work during a lockdown would be e-commerce. People don't go in stores. They simply order it off the shelves. People wearing masks can protect themselves in a large warehouse, put it in a box, ship it off. It gets carried by a postman who sits it down on the door wearing rubber gloves and walks away. Why do you ban e-commerce? Because of your racial hatred. Because your perception that most e-commerce is conducted by white people in South Africa. And so you want to punish and hurt them. You are the one stoking racial hatred in South Africa, Cyril Ramaphosa. You and the ANC. For shame, for shame, for shame. How about addressing this question? Let's have a debate with Cyril Ramaphosa. Mr. President, is it true, the comment that's attributed to you from the 1990s, is it true that you actually said in the negotiations what we have to do is treat this like boiling the frog, let them sit in the pot and just keep turning the temperature up, and in 25 years, then we'll strike? Is that a true statement or is that simply fiction? Did someone make that up? Address that question. Where is Mail and Guardian? Where is News 24? Where is Financial Times? Where is ENCA? Well, I know where SABC is. They're in the tank. But where are all these so-called media outlets not asking this question to the president of South Africa? Where are those questions? Those are, in this country, listen to Donald Trump is a racist. Tell me how. He called Mexicans rapists. No, he didn't. Actually, listen to it. He endorsed the white supremacists in Charlottesville. No, he didn't. He disavowed them the same day in the same speech as it happened, and several days in a row after that. Get your facts straight. We have the video evidence of this. We have the dates, but the media lies about it all the time. They ask. Donald Trump walks out of Walter Reed National Medical Center. Mr. President, are you a super spreader? We get idiotic questions on this side. How about a genuine question of Cyril Ramaphosa? No, instead he hides in his mansion in Pretoria and says nothing except this nonsense. I shall continue with the letter now, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, back to this. All right. So those people who think that farm attacks affect just a small part of our population are wrong. Well, you got that right. You're absolutely correct. That's the second thing. Reform the justice system, strengthen it. I agree there. We didn't say reform, it said strengthen it. And now he says that it affects more than just farmers. But let me continue. The farming community is an integral part of our economy. The farming community produces the food that we eat. Violent crime on farms poses not just a threat to the safety of rural communities, but to our nation's food security. Yeah. You sound like AfriForum. You sound like the farming community. Yeah, okay, got it. But again, my point, I'll tell you, it doesn't matter. Your economy can collapse. You can produce no food, and the world will feed South Africa. Relax. That's not the reason that it matters. The reason it matters is because the violent domestic terrorist actions taking place on farms across South Africa. This is violent terrorism. I don't want to hear, and he's going to deny that in the next page. I'm getting to that in a moment. It's an utter lie. And I'll tell you cases of how it's a lie and give you specific examples of why it's a lie and why it needs to be exposed. And the African National Congress, which was created in 1912 and for decades served an honorable purpose, is a disgraceful shame. It shames itself. Its effort to steal history, trying to take credit for the Black consciousness movement. That's right. The ANC claims that they were responsible. No, they're not. You had nothing to do with it. Steve Biko and others at university are the ones that started the Black consciousness movement. Taking credit for the Freedom Charter. You didn't write the Freedom Charter. It was written largely by white South African Jews. And it was a document that a multitude of groups coalesced around in 1955. But you lie about that. You glorify the Mkhonto we Sizwe, but you ignore the tortures, the murders, the assassinations, the rapes that took place at Quattro. You claim 100,000 MK veterans when there were never more than 2,500 of you in the bush in Angola. And another 500 running around South Africa blowing things up. Frauds. You're frauds. Utter frauds. And you disgrace yourself. Where are the real politicians in the ANC? Where is Trevor Manuel? Where has he disappeared to? Instead, we have this feckless state capture crowd that's there that would rather aspire to assassinate another member of the ANC who's a local councillor rather than get an education and aspire to be a doctor, a lawyer, a dentist, a soldier, a policeman, an inventor, a scientist, a pharmacist, a farmer. No, their desire in the ANC, their path to fame and prosperity and wealth is a position in government, a disease that afflicts most of Africa. People see a government position as a way of making it. That's not the way it's supposed to work. Government is here to serve our needs. Our needs. We create government to meet our needs, not the other way around. And the ANC has got their head up their rectum. They've got it backwards. They exist to serve South Africans, not the other way around. They want South Africans to serve them as serfs, whether they're white, black, Indian, or colored. That's the reality in South Africa. And yes, this is a long, continuous rant. Back to the letter. All right. Lots of chats coming in. Where's Trevor? Yeah, no one's asked about Trevor Manuel lately. John Kennedy's here. Steve Biko, my hero, says Wyan. Cool. Biko was a good guy. He was misrepresented. I might not agree with everything he had to say, but I agree with a lot of what he had to say. There was no reason for black South Africans to be ashamed of who they were. Black South Africans should be proud of who they are. Zulu, Xhosa, you should be proud of your history. Even the bad parts of your history. Not that you say it's a wonderful thing. I mean, Dingani's betrayal is not something to be proud of. The Mfukane is not something to be proud of. But there is proud history for everyone. And if you're an Afrikaner, you should be proud of your history. You have an epic history. If you're Khoisan San, you should be especially proud of your history. No one should be ashamed of their history. There are parts of all of our histories that we have to be angry about or to be unhappy about. But people should be proud. Biko was about South Africans having pride in who they were. And I had no issue with that. All right, back to the rants. Those people who think that farm attacks are just a small part. Well, here's the thing, folks. He gets it wrong. It's not about feeding the nation. Look at Zimbabwe. Look to your north. Zimbabwe is a disaster. In the last 20 years, at least 8 of those years, people would have starved to death were it not for food assistance from the United States and other donors, but primarily from the United States. We have fed Zimbabweans for much of the last 20 years, or they would have starved to death. They're not going to starve. You won't starve in South Africa. Your society will collapse and your farming sector will be destroyed, but you won't starve. The world will ensure that. Trust me. We fed starving Ethiopians in 1985. We will feed starving South Africans in 2022. Trust me. That's not the reason Sir Ramaphosa needs to stop. The reason you need to stop murdering people on farms is because it's morally wrong. And it violates the human rights of those people in South Africa. You are a signatory to the Universal Declaration of Human Rights of South Africa. You have an obligation to try to abide by the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Alistair said, my chat is way behind, folks. Hang on. Let me catch up here. Why is my chat so far behind? I'm missing super chats, and my apologies for that. I have to go through at the end and do all the super chats. Wow. There's a lot of chat. I hope this chat shows up afterwards so I can read it all because I can't keep up with this. Wow. Some farmers overreacted Senegal, but the police were worse. I already got that. It was from Brett. Then we've had, I want to make sure I get the super chats here, folks. My apologies as I rant and don't get to this. But come on. I'm trying to get to the chat. It's not working properly. Wow, you guys are chatting up a storm. Alistair Ross says, serious rant, but I love it. Okay, cool. All right, now I think I've caught it there. Your cat just left the room. Jim G's cat got scared. Sorry about that, Jim G. All right, so keynote, I don't agree that he was the Malcolm X of South Africa. Malcolm X was a radical who actually had no difficulty with people being harmed. I don't think that Biko was for people being harmed. I think that's a key distinction. Anyway, but the reason for stopping this is that it's wrong. But beyond it being wrong, there's a bigger picture here. And of course, Cyril Ramaphosa, the 450 millionaire himself, dollar millionaire, not rand, doesn't have the intellectual capacity to actually make the legitimate argument, nor does his staff of writers. The real argument here is just like in Zimbabwe, is that when you attack commercial farms, you destroy a farm, people are forced off the farm, that farm collapses, and dozens of jobs go with it immediately from the farm workers. All the hundreds of people that they support with their income are now hungry and starving and have to go on state grants if they can get it. And then it's beyond that. The banks that loan them money to buy tractors and buy seed, they lose money on loans, and it has an impact. Other people have to bear the cost of that failure. The banks go under. People in the bank industry go under. All these people buy things throughout the economy. The tractors need spare parts, spare tires, carburetors, things like that. All of that business goes away. You have an entire ecosystem that's connected to commercial farming beyond commercial farming. The supermarkets that get the goods, they can't get the goods. They have to pay more. They have to charge the consumers more. The impact of attacking commercial farmers is manifold, manifested so far beyond the commercial farmers themselves. That's a legitimate reason economically to make the case. But the ANC is not intelligent enough to make that case. It's disgraceful. It's disgraceful because you're going to go hungry. You're not going to go hungry. You're not going to go hungry. We just gave you $5.6 billion, ANC, in July. $4.3 billion from the International Monetary Fund at basically gift rates, 1.1% interest rate. That's less than inflation, which means that if you ever pay the money back to the IMF, you'll be paying it back at less than what you paid for it or what you got it for because it's worth less. 1.1%, $4.3 billion. The African Development Bank in June gave the African National Congress $285 million. The New Development Bank, or the BRICS Bank, gave you $1 billion. Folks, that's $5.6 billion or 100 million, or billion rand, 100 billion rand. 100 billion rand. Where are those 100 billion rand now, ANC? Less than 2 months later. Where is that money? Where's the transparency? How about some information on that instead of distorting the argument about plus mod? All right, the economic reasons. Anyway, I'll continue on here. Now, this is on the second page. I'm only on the second page, by the way, folks, and we're coming up an hour. The claim that violent crime is part of an orchestrated campaign by blacks to drive white farmers off their land is simply not borne out by fact. Well, how do you know that, Sir Ramaphosa? You do not treat farm murders as anything other than random crime. You lump it in with other crime. So how could you possibly make the argument that there is research into whether this is a different sort of crime or whether it's organized? You have no evidence of that. But let's talk about that. Let's talk about that. All right. So Brendan Horner, one case, for example, Brendan Horner is stabbed multiple times. He's not a farm owner. So no one killed him to steal a farm or to chase him off a farm. He was murdered for political purpose. Brendan Horner, 21 years old, was a farm manager, celebrating his 1-year anniversary of being employed as a farm manager. Driving home. We don't know the events that unfolded because we're waiting to hear the accused murderers and whether they actually did it and why they did it and how they did it. But he's attacked. He's beaten physically. He's stabbed repeatedly. Then he's hung from a pole. And the knife used to murder him with is stuck in the ground at his feet. Now that is simply a random act. That is simply a crime of opportunity. That is horse shit. That's manure coming out of the mouth of a president of a country. A president who 2.5 years ago on international media denied that these things even happened. When Donald Trump tweeted about farm murders in South Africa, he's wrong. Donald Trump is misinformed. I don't know where they told him that information from, but there are no farm murders in South Africa. There are no farm murders in South Africa. There are no white farmers being murdered in South Africa. Excuse me? Excuse me? Thousands of white farmers have been murdered in South Africa and their children. The Brunt family in the Northern Cape in July, 83-year-old father, 73-year-old mother, and their daughter visited because it was their anniversary. Violated in the most vile fashion, disfigured and murdered, bodies dumped in 2 locations. And what was stolen? This so-called crime. What was the crime of opportunity? The opportunity to murder white people? That's the crime of opportunity, Sir Ramaphosa. The opportunity to kill white people, incited by the EFF. No action taken by the African National Congress. That's the crime of opportunity here, ladies and gentlemen. The crime of opportunity is the opportunity to murder white South Africans and coloreds and Indians and blacks who don't kowtow to this radical, violent ideology. That's the crime of opportunity. That's the bottom line. That is the bottom line. Crime of opportunity. The Brown family, the television in the house, their mobile phones left in the house, cash left in the house. The only thing stolen was the vehicle which was used to drive away because the murderers were too freaking lazy to walk home. Only thing stolen. And they're so cheeky they had the vehicle right outside their place. They tortured and murdered, disfigured, sexually violated, murdered. For what? Because they were angry farm workers? No. Because they mistreated farm workers? No. Because they were white, isolated, and vulnerable. The same reason that a 26-year-old Indian mother, 4 months pregnant, dragged out of the bedroom with her 4-year-old and her 8-year-old children, taken into the bathroom, 4 months pregnant. You could see she's pregnant at 4 months. And they slit her throat from ear to ear to murder her. For what? For what? Racial unity? You're full of it, Sarah Ramaphosa. It's vile. Your behavior is vile. Numerous studies show that crime in farming communities is largely opportunistic. Rural communities are more vulnerable because they're isolated location as a result of the relative lack of access to security and other services. Yeah, and whose fault is that? 168 commando units in South Africa disbanded by the ANC. And they did this and they sold it to black South Africans because they claimed that the commandos were racist. This is a legacy of apartheid. The only problem with that fairy tale is the commando system predates apartheid by over a century. The commando system was like the Minuteman system in America, in which when someone was under attack or a village was under attack or farm, you spread the word on horseback. You grabbed your powder, you grabbed your rifle, you grabbed your saddlebags, you jumped on your horse, you took yourself and your of-age sons, and you ran to the next farm, and you formed a commando to defend yourselves against attacks by others. That's what the commando system was, and it was further implemented during the Boer Wars, the Anglo-Boer War, to protect people who were being attacked by the Brits and being put on concentration camps. That's the origin of the commando system, not apartheid. That's a lie. And oh, by the way, if they talk about the racism, it's just how they sold it to South Africans, black South Africans, by and large, and got away with this when they started over a decade ago, 13 years ago, disbanding these, 15 years ago, disbanding these things. They got away with it because they said it was racist. But the problem with that is that's a lie too. The four newest commando regiments were all black Zulu regiments in Zululand. 4 all black members. And for almost everyone in those regiments, the only form of formal employment they actually had was the commando system when they were activated for reserve duty. So that was a lie. That was a lie. There's a reason why there's lack of services, because you have withdrawn the services and allowed thousands to be terrorized and killed. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. The success of our rural safety strategy rests on greater coordination and better communication between the South African Police Service, business, farming organizations, communities. Once again, blaming rural South Africans for your failures. You don't want to cooperate with these organizations. You don't cooperate with them. In fact, you impede them. The SAPS intentionally impedes these organizations. Once again, Sir Ramaphosa, I will help you out. Retrain, resource, and redeploy. It's easy. It's 3 R's, like reading, writing, arithmetic. Reading, writing, arithmetic. Retrain, resource, redeploy SAPS. That is how you address this issue. And stop sticking race in everything. My God. Black, white, Indian, and color South Africans just want to get along. Look at all the black South Africans who stepped up to the plate, showed up at Seneca last time, and watch how many show up in support of farmers on the 16th. You're going to be astounded and flabbergasted how many black South Africans rock up there in support of farmers and trying to stop this nonsense. Right. There needs to be more collaboration between farm watch organizations and community policing forums. Really. Again, deflecting. Not the NC's fault. Wasn't me, Shaggy. Picture this. We were both butt naked on the bathroom floor. Wasn't me, says Cyril. Cyril says it wasn't me. It's the community policing. It's their responsibility. They're the ones that need to do a better job. Farmers need to more readily provide access to the lands to law enforcement officials. Come again? Farmers need to provide access to the land to law enforcement? How are farmers denying law enforcement access to land? How could law enforcement not come on a farm? They have a right to come on there in order to do policing. And well, by the way, the murderers seem to have no trouble accessing the farmers' lands. Look, they're blaming the farmers for this nonsense. This is stupidity. I'm going to jump ahead because I'm getting just nauseated reading this. By the way, folks, you're listening to Chris Wide Africa on the Indaba Africa channel. I'm Chris here in central Pennsylvania. Thank you to the massive audience we have here today, about 250 people currently watching. Thank you so much for that. The super chats have come in. Thank you for that. My apologies for not getting to the chat. Those who watch my channel regularly, you know that I typically get to the chat, but obviously I'm on a bit of a rant today about this letter from Sir Ramaphosa. I haven't even gotten to Amy Coney Barrett, haven't gotten to Columbus Day, and I'm not going to. I'm going to focus on this letter. We're going to go a little bit further here. All right, so we would be naive to assume that race relations in farming communities have been harmonious since the advent of democracy. Well, I don't disagree with that. But how is that germane to the issue of farm murders? Are you trying to make another moral equivalency argument that farmers are murdered because of the mistreatment or maltreatment of farm workers? Are you making the assumption that farm workers are all black? They're not. They're not. Lots of coloreds, lots of Indians, and even white farm workers. Brendan Horner was a farm worker. He wasn't a farm owner. He was murdered. What's that all about? What's that all about? You are naive and you think we're stupid. What happened in Senegal shows just how easily the tinderbox of race hatred can be ignited. No, it doesn't. It doesn't. Tinderbox. Are you serious? Right now in Durban, people are burning councilors' offices. Where are you at on this subject? Julius Malema is tweeting photographs of AK-47s, telling his party members to go out there. The South African Human Rights Commission is denying that this is even taking place, saying that Julius Malema has done nothing to incite violence. If Julius Malema has done nothing to incite violence, then how could Andre Pinar possibly be in the dock for inciting violence and domestic terrorism? It doesn't make any sense. Why are the charges against these individuals not domestic terrorism? Do you want a definition of terrorism? I'll give you a definition of terrorism. We'll say that for future broadcasts. There are multiple definitions and no single agreed upon definition for what terrorism is. But the U.S. Department of Defense has long had a definition, and that definition, in my view, is the best one. Now, am I biased? Yes, I was an Army officer. But I've looked at the United Nations. I've looked at the European Union. I've looked at the Human Rights Watch. All these other people talk about terrorism. The single best definition for terrorism is one the Defense Department has. And this is clearly terrorism against Brendan Horner. He was attacked because of the color of his skin to drive people off the land. And Sir Ramaphosa can lie and deny it all he wants. It doesn't change the fact. We must work together to root out criminality. Shall we start with your government? $4.3 billion IMF, $285 million from the African Development Bank, $1 billion from the BRICS Bank, $5.6 billion, 100 billion rand in July. Where's it at? How about some transparency to show us where that money is at, where it's gone? Now, this is the most comical line in all of it. All of it. You ready for this, folks? You ready for this? We must not be blinded by our own prejudices to the suffering and pain of others. Really? Are you serious? Are you serious? To the sufferings of others. A UCT student is lured to her death by a sexual predator in Cape Town. Where were you, Cyril Ramaphosa? Where was the ANC about gender-based violence? The list is endless. We could run through the sad, tragic list of names of black, colored, white, Indian South Africans who've been murdered, women who've been sexually assaulted, gang raped, tortured, and murdered, acid poured over their bodies dumped in landfills, in trash heaps. It's disgusting. And why? Because they can get away with it. And because who raised these people? Oh, hang on. Before you get excited when I say these people, because, that's racial. No, it's not racial. These people refers to the gangsters and thugs who do this to South Africans, regardless of their ethnicity. Regardless. Do they have parents? Were they raised by wolves? Wolves behave better than this. They don't attack their own. They only go after things they need to eat or things that threaten them. Utter nonsense. All right, let me get to some of the chat now. That's the letter. I'm way behind, but I'll try to pick out some where you guys have called me out. Lots of chat between each other. That's awesome, folks. Thanks for the audience. Got over 250 here. 1985 protests. Did you have a mullet? No, Croy. I was in the Army. I had shorter hair than this. No mullet in 1985. All right, that's as far as I can go back. Emil Therrett is back. Good to see you again. Hans, no sea patrols against Dallas carrying heroin and arms in Mozambique to stop pirates. The ships are not seaworthy, and so is the Air Force. That's true. In fact, only about a third of the Gripens are actually serviceable at this point. and only one of the ships can be put at sea at a time, and they can only do it for a short period. And the Type 209 diesel submarines have not been seen at sea in some time. Colette Hewlett is here. Violent protest and oxymoron, as Dr. Peter Hammond. A riot is no longer a protest. Yep. Jaji Stam says, okay. Yeah, I need the Sir Ramaphosa mask. I shouldn't tarnish the V for Vengeance mask here. The Guy Fawkes mask with that. That's true. Brett retract his message. Brett doesn't do that. What happened? Erie says there's 2,000 watching. Well, tell people about my channel, folks. Erie, you got to spread the word. The people don't watch this. The reason we don't, this is an awesome audience. The reason we don't have thousands watching this is because people haven't seen it. They don't know about it. There are very few people who actually come to my channel and go, I don't like this content, unless they're trolls. Even people who disagree with me come to this channel and tend to like this channel because of the wide variety of guests we have on here, the wide variety of topics I cover. I mean, I did video on Sudan, video on Women's Day, video on all kinds of things. Claudia Agrizi, what happened at Maracana? The NC has lost the plot. The only way to gain votes is by using racially motivated politics, just like in the United States. Just like in the United States. Brett says the NC's not done anything right. Well, pretty much so. They think they did some things okay in the beginning, but they lost the plot quickly. The shoe thing is so absurd. They're just testing how severe. They are, Erie. Okay. 10% of murder cases result in arrest and conviction. There you go, John. That's what I said. What was that? Stacy Zulu. Welcome, Stacy Zulu. Doc Meyer's back. Johan Celiers. Deborah Olivier is back. Okay. Wait, but Deborah, aren't you Deborah Labaskakny? Is that the same Deborah Olivier? It's been a while since I've seen you. Clint Hoynes, it's time for the world knows. Thanks, Chris. ANCNF has no idea. Blame whites for their failure. Exactly. And Robin says in some stores, they even restrict the children's toy section. Yeah, insane. Or folks, you could go to Dischem during the lockdown, the hard lockdown from the beginning of March, 27 March when they started. You could go to Dischem and you could buy medicines. But the shelf with hair care products and dental floss and toothpaste was blocked. What the hell is that all about? Why can't you just buy what you need? These people don't believe in science. They believe in witchcraft, in muti. That's what they believe in. They're consulting traditional healers to get their answers about this. Not that traditional healers don't have value and merit. They do. They actually do. But I didn't mean to lump in traditional healers with witch doctors. That's witchcraft. That's a completely different thing. So my apologies to traditional healers. You are actually legitimate practitioners in medicine with many solutions. But some of them are just lunatics too. What else we got here? Cat left the room. Maybe starving will be the lesson we need without world assistance. Maybe, Alistair. Maybe. And you guys, not many comments to me, so I'm just getting to those. Keynote says, what Sir Ramaphosa was denying was the purported white genocide. Yes, Keynote. Okay, fair. Keynote looks like a legitimate person commenting here. So, yes, the claim that violent crime at farms is part of an orchestrated campaign by whites to drive farmers off land is simply not borne out by facts. No, that's not true. He doesn't have any facts to back that. He's making it up. The piece he said here was people being irresponsible about white genocide. Let me find that. You were correct. He did say that. Where did he say that? I didn't. I thought. Where's this at? I have it here somewhere. Lockdown curfews, restricted farm patrols. Indeed, Razan Haba, they did, and that's. But the farm murders were down during this time, so that is true. But there's not a correlation between deaths, so that's hard. Where is this at? He did say about genocide, white genocide. He said people being irresponsible. I'm trying to find that comment. I thought it was on the second page, but yeah, you were correct, Keynote. He did say that, but did you hear me use the phrase white genocide? Did you hear me say that? I didn't say that. Now, there is a effort to extinguish Afrikaans as a language. There's cultural genocide going on, but that affects a lot more than white people. That affects coloreds. It affects Indians who speak Afrikaans as a first language, and black South Africans, about 190,000 of them whose first language is Afrikaans. So the effort to stamp out Afrikaans is definitely cultural genocide, to stamp out a culture. The renaming of things with no purpose whatsoever, fraudulent claims about, restoration of things when there were no black settlements, no African settlements in Nelspruit when it was founded. It was founded. There were no black settlements in Zeerost when it was founded. There was no black settlement in Pretoria when it was founded by Trek Boers. That's simply fiction. Chwana, a mystical chief that we have no evidence he ever existed, naming it after him. That's simply gratuitous. Naming a town Kaydorp is just wrong. And renaming it, I got no problem with that. That's appropriate. Taking a place that had an African name and renaming it to the African name, nothing wrong with that. But simply change the names of things for the sake of it, they're changing things to wipe out history. Schoolman is now Francis Bard Boulevard in Hatfield. Why? Why? Why has that changed? Utter nonsense. Jim G says, well said, disgraceful. It's not about race. It's about personal ability. Exactly right. What else we got here? Shack Dweller, DNA test prove it was Shaggy. Yeah, CJHSSHJC says he obviously doesn't give a crap. That's why he shouldn't be president. Yep. Craig Sparks says, well, yes, the farmers need to form their own commandos and policing system. Yeah, but they've put laws in place to prevent that from happening. So that's a bit of a challenge. It's difficult to do. All right. So Johannes Badenhorst, shoot to kill if your land is in danger. No more negotiating. I would not recommend that. I'm going to delete that message, Johannes, because I don't like that message. I appreciate it. Defend yourself. Self-defense is one thing. Keynote says this proves there's no party worth voting for in South Africa, and that's why the ANC will always rule because there's no better choice. Well, Keynote, that's a good point that you make there about no better party, but I disagree. I'm not a fan of the Democratic Alliance. It's formed from the traditional Liberal Party, and that's where its roots come from. And with the exception of when Helen Zille was the party leader, it has vacillated from one side to another. Particularly, it got really off the rails when Mmusi Maimane was in charge of the party, and it tried to be the ANC light. So it lost a lot of credibility. I would say that under Steenhuisen, the party, the temporary leader of the party, is regaining some of that confidence. But a lot of people just hate the DA, especially white South Africans, and they refuse to vote for it. The only reason that the DA rules in the Western Cape is because colored South Africans vote for the party. And that's a similar situation in Nelson Mandela Bay. The brief time that they were able to form a coalition, it was because of support from colored South Africans. But the DA is the only viable option you have. So what you have to do is join that party and then steer it in the direction it needs to go in so it takes care of South Africans, and it does it for the right reasons, not for some mamby-pamby leftist nonsense. Make no mistake, the DA is left of center. It's not very far left of center, but it is left of center. The party that comes the closest to actually being in the center in South Africa is the Freedom Front Plus, which is portrayed as a racist, white, apartheid apologist party. And that may have been a legitimate, I'm not saying it is, but might have been a legitimate complaint about them years ago. I looked at the party platform in 2019, and virtually everything that they called for was simply reasonable and centrist. It wasn't right, it wasn't left, it was centrist. So looking at all the parties, even the African Christian Democratic Party doesn't come as nearly in the center as the Freedom Front Plus does. There's no party on the right in South Africa. They portray the Freedom Front Plus as right. It's not. There's no party there. No party of any substance, I should say. So your options are limited. But my recommendation, ladies and gentlemen, in South Africa is that in 2021, you go to municipal elections and you vote DA. So the DA takes over Cape Town, which it has, retakes Nelson Mandela Bay with a majority, which it was on the cusp of doing last time, short a few thousand votes, largest polling party in Nelson Mandela Bay in 2016. Take Nelson Mandela Bay, take Johannesburg, which they're close to taking, and take Pretoria. There's an outside chance that even in Durban, that the DA could rule in coalition with the Inkatha Freedom Party if they could settle their differences. Get the ANC out of governance in the cities. It's not a perfect solution. It won't solve everything, but it gives you from 2021 until 2024, 3 years to prove that that party can work with coalition partners, but you only take a coalition partner when you have a majority. You have a majority, then you bring a partner in, and that's how you do it, folks. And if the partner misbehaves or wants corruption, you just say, Futsec, get out of here. We don't need you. We have a majority. We'll rule that way. If you want to be part of this and show that you too can also rule better than the ANC, then you're welcome to join our coalition. And then you prove. Now, that's not a perfect solution because the national government still controls a lot of the financing that goes to the metros. And the SAPS is still a factor, which is the National Police Service. But nonetheless, you need to do that. And then the DA needs to put on its best behavior and focus on service delivery and legitimate governance and addressing all South African needs. But the only way it's going to happen is if the opposition parties are out now in the townships, in Kasheta, in Alexandria, in Soweto, in the rural areas of South Africa, this very minute, recruiting people to their party, people who look like them, people who don't look like them. Khoisan, San, Venda, Tswana, Basotho, Siswati, Zulu, Xhosa, take your pick. They should all be in political parties that are not the African National Congress. The ANC has tarnished its reputation and ruined its legacy, and it does not deserve to govern. Send it a clear message in 2021 and vote it out of office in all the major metropolitan areas and see if they start to behave themselves. That's what you have to do, folks. That's what you have to do. All right, let me catch up on the chat again very quickly. Farmers do not deny access to police. Exactly, Erica. Jocelyn Larson says South Africa's turning to Zimbabwe. Yeah, I've denied that for years, but gosh, it's getting hard to say it isn't. Brett Sessoms, the NBA has been taken over by China. True. Its ratings are an all-time low. NFL's ratings are all-time low because they're just virtue signalers. Chris, I like Shaggy. So do I, YN. Shaggy's pretty good. He was good song, too, he had there. This is what happens when tyranny becomes law. It's time for resistance, as it's everyone's duty, even the kids for the future. Colette, this whole scenario since 94 is communist takeover. Tony Nagy's here. And then Keynote, I hear you, sir, but I'm not impressed. But wait, listen, Keynote, I'm not either. I'm not. But if you believe in governance in South Africa rather than conflict and a civil war, then what you need to do is take that leap of faith and join that party and push them. Or everyone has to join the Freedom Front Plus, which isn't going to happen. The DA has a legitimate chance. But if the DA goes in and gets 48% in Nelson Mandela Bay and the Freedom Front Plus gets 6%, it's going to have to go in coalition with Freedom Front Plus. And then it's going to have to do things that the Freedom Front Plus wants, and they won't always agree. And that will lead to stagnation and sclerosis. You need a majority, so you need to get there. Last time in Nelson Mandela Bay, by the way, YN, where are you at? If you don't mind telling me. What part of the country are you in? Share that with me if you don't mind. And I'm going to cut off here, folks, in about 10 minutes, but we're going to keep going for 10 minutes. Tian says there was a time when they couldn't keep the Grippins in the air, but to my knowledge, they have a private company looking after them now, and they flew their hours and more. Tian, then you probably have better information that's publicly available, because that information is not publicly available. Last public information from the government was that they had grounded 2/3 of the fleet. They don't have the pilots. I mean, I've looked at information. So are you saying that the private pilots are the ones flying the Grippins? That kind of defeats the whole purpose, Tian. How can you, so they can keep them operational, but who are they going to be operational for? The 6 pilots that can show up and fly them on a given day? But Tian knows the aviation industry, so I'm asking. But yeah, Keynote, not YN. Keynote. Where are you at, Keynote? Not YN. Where are you at if you're not impressed with the DA? Hans, own capital, own labor, own institutions. Brian Thompson says, do you ever feel it's difficult to have an opinion on South African politics when you don't live in the country? No. Why would it be difficult? Brian, do you have an opinion about American politics? You're welcome to your opinion. I don't find it difficult at all. Not difficult at all. Not at all. I'm well informed in South Africa. Very well informed in South Africa. I've been here hundreds of times. I've done research on it for decades. I was an intelligence analyst covering it for a long time. I know lots of people in South Africa that are politically connected, those in the military, those in the industry. I've dealt with South Africans all over the world. So why would I feel uncomfortable sharing an opinion about South Africa or offering analysis of it? I do. And it's fact-based. Yeah, today there's emotion because this is just utter cuck. This is utter nonsense. This letter from Cyril Ramaphosa meant to mollify people, not to accomplish no policy other than we must strengthen our justice system. Okay. Gee, there's a shocking revelation. Yeah. How? Are you going to train more advocates? Are you going to increase the court system, increase the number of courts? Are you going to speed up processing of trials? Are you going to do pretrial detention? Are you not going to grant a bail of 1,000 rand for a suspected murderer? Yeah, that would be useful. So no, Brian, I have no objection. Angeline Openshaw, that's an interesting surname. Just joined. Anyone is welcome to have an opinion on anything, especially if you can back it up with facts and reasonable cogent analysis. Kulak strategy. Ooh, Jody Taylor pulls in the Ukraine with the kulaks. Soviet oppression of the kulaks. Well done. I love it. Proud Neanderthal farmer has been attacked in Petersburg, poured petrol over him, set him alight. Luckily, a swimming pool was nearby. Unbelievable. I haven't seen that. Did that just happen, Proud Neanderthal? All right, this is definitely on knife's edge now, folks. This is just utter nonsense. People just being attacked and assassinated for no reason. It's unbelievable. Let's see what else we got here. Quentin says, again, thanks for the stream. Appreciate the time put in sharing the message. John Kenny says, I live in South Africa, Northern Cape. All right, thanks, John. Brett, are Zambia, Zimbabwe, and Namibia dependent on food imports from South Africa? Zambia is not dependent on food imports. Zimbabwe, depending on the season, the year, is dependent on food imports from food aid and or food imports, but some years they produce enough maize, which is the major staple crop, and beef on their own. Namibia can produce enough beef for itself and it largely meets its food needs, but when it comes to grains and maize, it has some challenges there and does import those things from South Africa and other places on occasion. Stevie says, spoke to a guy who comes from Sweden to maintain Grippins. He also stated that some are not flying. Yeah, okay. Do you think South Africa's in third phase, according to Yuri Brezhnev? I don't know, Steve. It's hard to give it an assessment where it's really at. No new prisons. Prisons are overcrowded. Yeah, Hans, yes, new prisons. Absolutely. That's all part of criminal justice reform. You have to have them. Margareta Kolk is back. Good to see you again. Western Cape must secede according to Stronger Together. A lot of people believe in that. John Kenny, Vater ons Bild für Zuid-Afrika dat u de bonete werk zal doen. Okay, that's too much for me to try to figure out in a moment. Tian says military pilots fly them, but help from private companies do the maintenance. Yeah, but that must mean a pilot flies one, comes back and flies another, because there's only 6 pilots. That's the government's own disclosure. They have 6 qualified Gripen pilots who are current. That was the last information I saw. Maybe they reported false information. Has the economy and safety... Is the economy and safety in Madagascar because South Africans emigrate there? Madagascar can't handle 20 million South Africans, folks. Let me give you the numbers here real quick, just so you understand where I'm coming from. South Africans, 2.8 million Afrikaners, 2 million other white South Africans, largely English, but also Portuguese and others. But so 4.8 million white South Africans, right? On top of that, let me just do the math here really quickly and wipe off my board so we can do this, okay? So this is where I'm coming from on this one, folks, all right? All right, so that you guys are straight with me, okay? This is before, I'm not even going to address, because I have no way of estimating how many Zulu and how many Xhosa actually feel the same way, or the Khoi and San. But let me get to this real quick. Zeus God of Thor just subscribed. I think that meant to be Zeus. So we've got 2.8 million Afrikaners, okay? And that includes the Boers, for those you want to be, bifurcating and dividing. 2 million other whites, okay? Then you have, on top of that, you have 6 to 8 million coloreds, okay? C-O-O-L, I'm spelling it with the English spelling. Coloreds, all right? So there you go. So you have 2.8 million Afrikaners, 2 million whites, and 6 to 8 million coloreds. So let's go with the top-end estimate on that. That gives you 8, 10, 12. That's 12.8 million South Africans, all right? 12.8 million South Africans right there, okay? That's what you have right now, 12.8 million, okay? Right. But that's not the end of the story, ladies and gentlemen. Then you also have 1.2 million Asians or Indians, okay? That gives you 14 million South Africans now. 14 million, okay? All right? That's 14 million potential refugees from South Africa as a consequence of the government's discrimination against minorities. 14 million, right? That's the people who are being discriminated against on a daily basis. But they're not alone, and the government will turn on others. So if you throw into this mix, now this is one where people will dispute me. That's fine. I don't care. But we'll do this anyway. These are two groups of people who, by and large, have long been associated with Afrikaners and Trek Boers and Boers and white Afrikaans-speaking South Africans, work on their farms, work in harmony with them. Not all, but many of them. That's 4 million Tswana speakers in South Africa and 2 million Basotho in the Free State. You take that 6 million, and folks, that gets you to 20 million people who have legitimate reasons to fear discrimination and a civil war in South Africa. 20 million. South Africa's population is 58 million, so 60. So 1 in 3 South Africans is a direct victim of this nonsense, in my estimation. Maybe they don't see themselves that way, but that's the reality of it. So 2.8 million Afrikaners is not much of a constituency, given that there are hundreds of thousands of them are toddlers, infants, and children, or elderly and infirm. So when you start breaking that down, you really see the situation. So, yeah, people need to be united against this nonsense. All right. Question, will I be at Senegal while I stay at home? Has anyone answered that question yet? Hans says the ANC won a majority vote in the previous election, 12 million votes. No, that's not true, Hans. They won 10.8 million votes, or 10.5 million. So 1.5 million votes less than what you're saying there. Total population is 60 million, registered 25 million, and there's actually a lot of people who aren't registered. They're not a really majority party by votes, but virtually no party is anywhere in the world. I mean, people just don't vote in high enough numbers in most places. So also, when you say that, that's not really accurate. You can't say 60 million because you have to look at the number of actual people eligible to vote. And then you go from the eligible number, and that's where you do it. The eligible number is not 60 million. It's closer to about 38 million. So 38 million eligible South Africans, 25 million of them registered, and about 18 million of them actually vote. So it's about half. Bongani Ngwenyi is here, 1,000 IQ math right there. Thank you, Bongani. Patrick says, if the ANC gave a toss about the country, they would speak up about Senegal now because this has the high potential to be a show. blood will be on their hands for silence. That's why Ramaphosa wrote this letter. But this isn't going to do the trick. It's going to take proper stuff from Keynote. It says, Cape Town independence is wishful thinking. A lot of people think that, Keynote. That's a fair point. Will you be attending the 5 December Cape Independence March, Cape Town comeback? No, I won't be. I can't go to South Africa because the ANC's ridiculous 72-hour negative COVID test. I can't even get a COVID test within 72 hours because I have no symptoms and they're limited and they won't refer me for it. I have to contact my military health provider, go to the military barracks for the clinic as a retiree when they give me an appointment, and that might be a week, 10 days away. I get the appointment, then I finally go. And then after the appointment, I have to wait for results. Well, how am I supposed to book a flight to South Africa, get to the airport, and get to South Africa within 72 hours of that nonsense? That's utter stupidity. But this is the hysteria associated with Wuhan coronavirus COVID-19, and that's what we're dealing with. All right, folks, let me just get to a couple more things here. What else we got here? Too late. Only letter I want from you is your resignation. Stevie says, sorry, squirrel, a little too late. Only letter I want from you is your resignation. Yes, day late, dollar short, Cyril Ramaphosa. If he had said this 2 years ago, before he went on Bloomberg 2.5 years ago, then it might have some credibility. It has zero credibility, just like his anti-corruption campaign, which he announced 2.5 years ago. And who's been prosecuted? Is Zuma in jail? No. Is Julius Malema in jail? No. Are any people in the ANC guilty of corruption in jail? No. None. In fact, they're appointed to the KZN Parliament and then given a paying position and suspended, but still receiving pay. Someone who's only out of jail because of a bond, appointed to the KwaZulu-Natal legislature. Can you believe this? The cheek of the ANC. Ginaldo Rose says the only good due to Corona is the fact that farm murders dropped until level 3, which proved there's a serious intent to commit harm to the health and well-being of farmers. Bingo! Spot on. Well said, Ginaldo Rose. All right, so Ireland, state that South Africa is a safe country. Ireland said that? Derek Dutoy? Ireland said that South Africa is safe? That's crazy. When did they say that? Boom, Shakalaka is back and says Cyril's a pup. We all know. Yeah, and he's barely holding on. So people think that Ace Magashula is going to be in the dock because Cyril's opposed to corruption. No. Cyril's position is tenuous. It's been tenuous since the day he took over. I've told people this. All you suckers that fell for Ramaphosa back in December of 2017, I warned you. Now, I didn't have a YouTube channel then, so I can only tell people in private or share it on LinkedIn. And I told people, I said, he has an opportunity to do something here, to come with a clean slate, to go after corruption, stop state capture, and stop the racialization of politics and South Africa. That was what I said. But his track record does not speak well to that. He's been deputy president for a number of years. His company was responsible for being involved in the incident Maracana. He's walked away from that. He's done nothing to stop state capture as deputy president. He's surrounded by himself, and he's not a successful businessman. That was the hook, line, and sinker you all fell for. Cyril Ramaphosa is a successful businessman. No, he's not. You give me $390 million worth of equity in companies, and I'll turn that into $1 billion in 26 years. He's turning it 450. That's barely putting it in a bank and making money off of interest on that money. He's not successful. If anything, he's a joke when it comes to business. He's a joke. Things were handed to him because he's politically connected. And a lot of you fell for it. Maybe not my audience, but a lot of South Africans fell for Ramaphosa. I didn't. I said he has an opportunity. Go back and read my writings on LinkedIn. You'll find I said he has an opportunity. He has a chance. But guess what he does? He squanders a chance right out of the gate. Why? Because he barely has control of his own party. 79 votes, folks. 79 votes. If he had lost 35 of the votes he had at the party conference, and Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma would have become the president of South Africa, of ANC, and then, of course, of South Africa after that, because you don't have direct vote for the president. Your system is corrupt. It's a parliamentary system disguised as a representative democracy. It's not a representative democracy. You don't vote for candidates in your country. You vote for a party list. And then the party picks the corrupt, feckless people to represent you. You don't pick your representative. If you live in the Western Cape and the ANC has won your part of the Cape, your representative comes from Peter Maritzburg, or from Gauteng, or from Polokwane, or from somewhere in Mpumalanga, but they don't come from the Western Cape. And they're not colored, and they're not English-speaking, and they're not Afrikaans-speaking South Africans. They are, by and large, people who are outside, alien, and know nothing about the place they're representing, because they don't represent you in Parliament. They don't represent you. They represent Luthuli House. That's their job. And they must toe the line with Luthuli House. What you need in the Western Cape, what you need in Northwest, what you need in Nelson Mandela Bay does not matter to the ANC. What Luthuli House wants is what matters to the ANC. And that is the bottom line, ladies and gentlemen. That is the fact of the matter. That is the reality in South Africa. And that's one of the reasons why your governance is so broken. Now, is our system perfect in the United States? No. We have problems too. But we have a brilliant system that intentionally divides powers, which is under assault. That's the problem we have. And people are getting away with it because we have a corrupt media that lies all the time. Unbelievable, folks. But that corrupt media is the planet, the world over. It's not simply the United States. So that's the problem here. All right, let me get back to where we're at here. Jim G says, Western Cape is not self-governed. Sucks, man. Secede yesterday already, please. When you're ready, bring it quick. Which shampoo do you use? Hans, I use Tresemme. No, I don't. I use Pantene. That's what I use. I don't use Tresemme. Also another French name, Pantene. I do not use Tresemme. Actually, no, I should be honest, folks. I don't use Tresemme. I use Dark and Lovely. Because according to Bianca van Wyk, if you know Bianca van Wyk, who famously appeared on Ronaldo Host, and tried to explain the concept of white privilege in this fashion. She actually said this, folks. Go back and watch the video. Let me give you an example of white privilege. When I go to Pick and Pay, there are no hair products for black women on the shelves. Or almost none. So my question to Bianca van Wyk was, when was the last time you were at a Spaza or at a tuck shop? When do you shop at Choppies? Have you been in the townships? Have you been to the grocery stores there or the goods stores there? Of course she hasn't. She's an uber privileged social justice warrior from South Africa who is disconnected from reality. 70% of Pick and Pay's customers are white people. So why are 70% or more of the shelves full of hair products for white people? Because that's who buys stuff there. Why would you fill your shelves with something that people don't buy? That's not white privilege. That's moronic analysis. That's coffee table analysis by social justice warriors who seek to divide us by race. It's utter nonsense. So why is 80%, 78% or 85% of the NBA black? Why is it over 80% of the players in the NBA black? Are they better at basketball? No. It's because that's a conscious, intentional decision by the league to pick those players for the style of play that they think that the public wants to see, that they can sell. That's the bottom line. It's not because those players have better abilities. That's what they want. Why is 95% of the National Hockey League white? Well, because with the exception of some mixed race Canadians and a few black Canadians who are largely there as a consequence of blacks who took the Underground Railroad to get to Canada in the 19th century, and plus a little bit of immigration from the Caribbean places. But there's almost no black people in Canada, historically. Almost none. And they don't go out on the ice and play ice hockey. And ice hockey grew up in Canada. And in the places where it's played in the United States, get this, it's cold in the wintertime. Not a lot of black folks live in places where people play hockey, so it didn't become a sport. Plus, it requires equipment. A lot of black folks were poor decades ago. They didn't have the money to buy the equipment to be hockey players. That's why. It's not because it's racist. It's not because it's exclusionary. It's because of the origin of the game and the crowds that like it. There you go. That's why. To see the NHL, all lives matter and, this other it's pandering. It's social pandering. It's virtue signaling nonsense. The NBA, where the minimum salary for a rookie is $900,000 per year. Just short of $1 million, folks. That's 17 million rand per year. That's the minimum for a rookie. Never played a game. Never stepped on the court. Guaranteed to make $900,000 per year. 890. Sorry, I slightly embellished. $890,000 a year. The starting salary for a rookie, and by the way, 85% of the NBA, black. How have they been discriminated against? If anybody's discriminated against, it's white players. 75% of this country is white. So stands to reason that 50 to 75% of the league should be white, but it's not. I don't care. I don't watch the NBA. Ever since Jordan retired, it's been a joke. It's been boring. It puts me to sleep. And they charge so much for tickets. Only rich people can afford the damn games. Boring. So I don't watch the NBA anymore. That's what they want to do. The NHL, I love the NHL. Their tickets are expensive too, but at least I can watch the games and pay $80 a year and watch all the games on my streaming, so I can do that, so I can stick up with it. But going to a game is ridiculously expensive, also for wealthy people. That's another reason why it traditionally wasn't a sport that many black folks went to, because only wealthy people could afford it by and large. The NFL, 65% of the NFL is black players. Folks, the United States, in case you're unaware of this, 13.5% of the population is black. And that includes 2 million, 3 million Africans who've come here in the past 3 decades immigrating to America. 13.5%. Yet 78 to 85% of the NBA is black. 78% are white Americans. The other 7% are international blacks or black Americans. And then 65% of the NHL, the NFL is black. Way out of proportion to the population, the percentage population you find blacks in this country. Talk of transformation, talk of equity. No, who cares? Who cares? The NFL has also destroyed itself with its pandering. Anyway, utter nonsense. You guys are talking about Cape again, huh? The Pakistani spaza shop sells Colgate and Tresemme and corner shops all over townships. Yeah. Yep. By the way, folks, if you're curious about, we got a big audience here. Robin, are you still here? Robin, are you still here? All right, ladies and gentlemen, watch this. This is a recent TikTok video from one of our very own Robin in response to the Clicks Tresemme thing. Here you go. I'm going to turn myself off the screen here very quickly, and this is from Robin, folks. You ready for this? Here we go.
Black. Yeah. My hair is kinky, my nose is wide, my skin is technicolor. I won't apologize. You peep my aura, you love the glow. Before you touch my shine, just know it ain't my style, it ain't my shade, ain't what I do, ain't what I say. I'm just hella black, I'm just hella black, I'm just hella black. Your fault if you're offended, I'm just hella black, I'm just hella black, I'm just hella black. Your fault if you're offended, I'm just blacker than licorice, harder other.
Folks, it's our very own Robin Dandelion's TikTok video. Of course, TikTok is not something we're fans of here in America. The Trumpster himself has told us that it's not a good idea to use TikTok. But I just thought I'd show that to you guys very quickly. Anyway, for those who are curious about where my sentiments lie, I'm going to have to break here. I do have another show after this tonight at 9:35 South Africa, Botswana time, 8:35 in Windhoek, Abuja in London. And at 3:35 Eastern Standard Time with Joe Stong from Wyoming Catholic College, we'll be talking about Columbus Day and also about events with the Supreme Court nomination of Judge Amy Coney Barrett, and just talking about politics in general as we're just a few weeks away from the election here in the United States. But folks, I'm going to close out here with this. Those who watch the channel regularly know this. If you're new to the channel, I'm going to quickly let you know who I am so you understand where I'm coming from. I'm Chris Wyatt. I'm a retired U.S. Army colonel, 36 and a half years of service in the Army, 34 of that active. I retired on October 1st of 2019, not by choice, but because I served the maximum time under the law. So I retired just over a year ago and started using my YouTube channel to make videos to support my strategic consultancy. And then realizing that people were suffering under the lockdown with isolation, people being desperate, worried about suicides and things like that, I started doing live streams in April. And then by late May, switched to a daily live stream. And in June, went to 2 live streams every day and have been doing that ever since. The audience has grown from 2 subscribers in February to 187 when I started live streams to over 11,000 today. Thank you so much for coming in. If you're new to the channel, feel free to subscribe to the channel. I cover all of Africa. This topic today was focused on South Africa. Many of my live streams do focus on South Africa because about 65% of my subscribers are from South Africa, and there are many expats around the world who also subscribe. But beyond that, I cover events all over Africa and geostrategic issues from the energy industry to culture to science to art to politics to economics. Take your pick. Lots of videos on all kinds of subjects around the continent. And that's what happens here. So in the Army, I served 23 of my 36 years overseas. And at that time, I served the National Security Agency, the Defense Intelligence Agency, at the Pentagon. I taught undergraduate at Iowa State University. I taught postgraduate at the Army War College. I worked at the Africa Command. I'm a published author in academic publications, both books and and published papers, as well as in commercial media for defense and rugby. I'm a rugby journalist, and so I have segments on my channel about rugby, about U.S. politics, and about South Africa, and many other things, Botswana, and maybe take your picks. One of my favorite videos I did was early on. I think I was very proud of this video about the Namibia beef industry being the first African country to ever export beef to the United States, legitimately, legally. They finally qualified after 17 years, and that was back earlier this year I did that. Anyway, folks, I'm going to close out because people are dropping off, and I'm going to head elsewhere, but I'm going to leave you with this because this is just awesome. Let me see if I can get this to come up real quick. Hang on a second. I want to make sure I got this so I don't open up the wrong window here. Here we go. Make sure you get the right window here. There we go. All right. This is what I love to go with, folks. This is the Trump song. All right. And I'll catch you on a little bit. Well, folks, that's it. That's I guess you know my sentiments for the upcoming election. I will vote for Donald Trump. And thanks to the 157 people who hung around to see that. That was pretty awesome. I hope you enjoyed that. We have an election coming up here in just a few short weeks in the United States. And a lot of people are pulling for the Trumpster himself, as am I. Well, don't listen to the fake news, folks. Look for alternative media. Get the facts. Get the analysis. Look around. And you'll find that right here in Chris White Africa. I'll be back on in about an hour and 20 minutes with my evening guest. Thank you for tuning in. God bless and have a good night. I hope you enjoyed the rant. I enjoyed it as well. So have a good evening. Yes, I'm a little bit out of breath. Take care, folks. Whoops. All right, got to turn off the camera here.